In this video, we shall be learning how to answer questions from a quadratic graph. So we'll be using this example. Use the graph of y equal to 4 plus 3x minus 2 minus x squared to find, and then we have all this chain of questions. Now we've plotted the graph. We can see this is a negative graph. And we can see what we did. The graph of y equal to 4 minus 3x minus x squared. And we can see the scale we used, 2 cm to 1 unit on x-axis and 2 cm to 2 units on y-axis. Now, this is the graph. Let's look at the questions. A, the roots of the equation. So we have to find the roots of the equation. And we can see that this equation is the given equation. So, in other words, where is this equation equal to 0? The roots of a quadratic curve from a graph is where that curve cuts the x-axis. So we can see at this point and at this point, and they are very, very clear points. So they already points on the x-axis. So 4 and negative 1. So we say the roots of the equations are x equal to minus 1 and x equal to 4. Very easy from this graph. Then the next question is, we have to find the range of values of x for which this given equation of the graph is positive. When we look at this graph, we can see on this side is positive y, on this side is negative y. So what they are asking for is, we can see the equation of the curve, that this equation is equal to y. So what values of y, what we are asking for is, this equation being a positive value is, what are the values where y is positive, because this equation is equal to y. So now we can see from this point to this point on x-axis, this graph is on the positive side of y-axis. But beyond this point, that is values less than negative 1, values less than minus 1, that is minus 1.12 and the rest of them. And this other side, values greater than 4, 4.156 and the rest of them. That is where this curve, this graph becomes negative. So how do we write that? We have that the values are between minus 1 and 4. We have x at the middle. So this is 4, where x is less than 4, right? And then where x is greater than 1. So we have to use we have to make sure that we are using same signs. We can't be having a sign like this and a sign like this. So it's usually the bigger value, the smaller value, x in between, and then you now have less than sign. It's usually less than sign. But if it should be greater than, you will know. Okay, the value of y where x is equal to minus 0.6. We have to go to the x-axis and look for negative 0.6. So this is x-axis, negative 0.6, that's before minus 1. We have that this is minus 0.5, all this intermediary line. So 0.6 is just this very next one. What we have to do is this point, we have to trace it up to the curve, and then wherever it meets, we have to trace it to y-axis. So this is 0.5, this is 0.6, negative 0.6. We trace it with a rule. Now at that point where they met, we also place the ruler at that point and trace it to the y-axis. So that is the point we are going to be reading off. We are now looking at where x is equal to negative 0.6, y is equal to, this is 1, because for y-axis is a different way of counting it, because 2 cm is to 2 units. Those 10 boxes in between 0 and 2, that's 2 divided by 10 is 0.2, meaning that each of these smallest boxes is 0.2. So here we'll be counting in 0.246. So we have 1. If this is 2, that means this is 1. So 1, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6. Therefore, y is equal to 1.6 at that point. We now say the value of y when x equal to 6 is 1.6. Now we are looking at the value of x when y equal to 3. The values of x when y equal to 3. We come to y-axis and look for where it is equal to 3. So this is 2, this is 4. That means this is 3. With a ruler, we place it at that point, and then with broken lines, we are going to draw a straight line to touch the curve at those 2 points. Then at each point where that line touches the curve, so this point, we are going to trace downward using a straight line. So this is the point where it touches the curve. We are going to trace downward to find the value on x-axis. So this value on x-axis, remember that x-axis is 2 cm to 1 unit, so it is 0.1. So we have 0.1, 0.2. This is an in-between value, so we are going to say 0.25 for this side. And then at this point where that line of 3 on the y-axis met, we also trace the points down here. So we have 3.12, 3.25, and 0.25. X is equal to minus 0.25 and x is equal to 3.25 from our graph. Okay, the maximum value of y. If you notice, for negative graphs, we will have a maximum value. For positive graphs that turn this way, we will have a minimum value. So whenever you hear maximum values, you should know it's an upside down graph like this. So this is the maximum value. This point here, we are going to trace it. That point, we trace it to y-axis to find what it is. So this is the point. We trace it down to y-axis. We can see that this point is 6. Remember that on y-axis, we are counting in 2s for each of these small boxes. So this is 6.2. It's not up to half of the line. If you look at it very well, it's not up to half of the line. Let me centralize it here. It's not up to half of this line. It's just touching this point, so we traced it. This is 6.2. It's not up to half. Half of this line will be 6.3. So we are going to say 6.25. The maximum value of y is 6.25. So this is how we answer questions from graphs.